Hey there, folks. Bernard here, co-founder of ClearScope. I have an awesome course for you to take a look at. What we'll be covering in the course is my approach to thinking about search intent classification, which is perhaps the most important thing to understand about modern day SEO content strategy. I'll walk you through a couple of examples that demonstrate how to think about search intent, specifically looking at the search engine results page, counting and observing what the intents are, and bucketing them into different themes that you should then create content on. 20 minutes, you should check it out. First, what a lot of people have been doing in terms of their content strategy is focusing too much on keywords. I'll use a very practical example to demonstrate why the focus on keywords is losing relevance and what you should do about it instead. Let's pretend for a second that we're working on a website. This website sells skincare products that help people get rid of pimples. What traditional keyword research would look like is that we would go to a common tool, like an Ahrefs, a SEMrush, that kind of stuff, and perform a keyword discovery on how to get rid of pimples. I'm going to use ClearScope to quickly do this, but you can imagine this looks pretty simple. Let me type in how to get rid of pimples into your common keyword research tools, and we'll quickly see that the monthly search volume associated with how to get rid of pimples is 40,500 monthly searches. Typically, what people would do is then they would create a piece of content that specifically targets the keyword, how to get rid of pimples, or maybe looks a little bit more clickbaity. That's something like 12 best ways to get rid of pimples. Or we might take a topic cluster or hub approach, in which case we would do something like this, ultimate guide to getting rid of pimples. Now, this particular approach is definitely losing its weight. Why, you might ask? Well, let's take a look at what we actually see ranking in the search results for this particular keyword. You'll see I opened up an incognito Google window, so there's going to be no personalizations for this particular search. Performing the search for how to get rid of pimples, you'll notice the types of results that we end up getting back in the search results have started to gravitate towards some amount of intent. You'll notice here, 6 ways to get rid of pimples fast. Or this result here says natural and fast, followed by powerful home remedies, how to get rid of pimples fast, fast. You can see here, this one's our first generic looking piece of content. And then we have in 1 day, things to try when acne won't clear, and how to get rid of pimples fast. Now you'll notice that if we're to take a look at the most popular Google autocomplete suggestions surrounding how to get rid of pimples, that the recommendations have centered around this idea that people want to get rid of pimples fairly quickly, overnight and fast, and naturally. Scrutinizing the search results, you will have noticed that a lot of the results we see ranking do actually address this particular intent, fast. As a matter of fact, if we were to perform an additional search also in incognito for how to get rid of pimples fast, you'll notice the types of results that we see showing up on the left are almost identical to exactly what you see ranking for the head topic. How to get rid of pimples fast, Saguaro, same result. Healthline, as you can see here, for natural ways, same result. We skip the powerful home remedies, and instead you'll see here the glamour and the very well health. Exactly the same results. Now, what a lot of people might chalk this up to is these websites have a strong domain authority. Healthline, glamour, that kind of stuff. Now, that may be true, but I have a different idea or hypothesis about what has been happening in Google search. So let's take a look at that. You can imagine that users in the past were performing searches for how to get rid of pimples. And back in the day when Google first introduced machine learning, you likely got a set of search results that, for the most part, targeted the exact match keyword. 10 results saying, okay, how to get rid of pimples. Well, those sets of users that performed the search for how to get rid of pimples likely clicked on some of these results, but were largely maybe unsatisfied with what they got. So you can imagine what those users might have done is go back to Google and perform an additional search for the modifier, how to get rid of pimples fast. You'll notice then that back then, you probably got a list of search engine results that targeted that exact match keyword, except the core difference here is that the user likely then concluded their search journey or found what they were looking for. This is going to be the key. You can imagine that Google's machine learning is going to take a look at this as the user journey and say, okay, well, if the users actually care about how to get rid of pimples fast, why wouldn't I take that end result and merge it into the head topic like this? You can imagine that Google performs an algorithm update, and now you see this as the search engine results page. Well, lots of users likely said, you know what? That's exactly what I wanted. So they were able to conclude their search journey without having to perform an additional search. What you see happening over time is that a search engine results page gravitates towards intents with the highest likelihood of concluding the search journey. What this is designed to illustrate is a few different ideas. Point number one is that relying on monthly search volume is no longer indicative of size of opportunity. Back to ClearScope's keyword discovery, you'll notice here that how to get rid of pimples gets the most monthly search volume, 40,500. But the modifiers for how to get rid of pimples overnight and how to get rid of pimples fast are worth a lot less in monthly search volume, yet ranking in the top spots for that particular keyword is actually what gets you ranking for the head topic. More importantly, you'll notice here that result number 2 and 3 talk about this idea of how to get rid of pimples naturally or using home remedies. You'll notice that if we look at the search volume alone surrounding how to get rid of pimples naturally, that it's a meager 390 monthly searches. Yet, if we perform the search in incognito over here on the left, guess what you have as the featured snippet? It's the powerful home remedies, followed by the natural ways. So Google is then taking the winners of this particular intent and having them graduate to rank for the head topic, even though the monthly search volume, as you can see, is 100 times less than the head topic. Relying on monthly search volume, again, is no longer indicative of the size of opportunity because we're seeing long tail relevant search intents capturing head topic rankings. Point number 2 is that Google autocomplete suggestions are strong indicators of searcher intent. You'll notice here that when I did the spacebar, we have Google autocomplete suggesting a lot of different recommendations that the user could care about. These are strong subsequent search recommendations that the user is most likely to care about, and using Google autocomplete suggestions is a very compelling way to generate searcher intent possibilities. ClearScope's keyword discovery relies on Google autocomplete suggestions to give you the most relevant ideas possible. The last point that I want to make in terms of what's happening in Google search is this idea that topic clusters, pillar pages, hub pages, and parent pages are losing relevance. So first, let's all get on the same page about what a topic cluster, hub page, pillar page, parent page is. You probably know these as Ultimate Guide to X, X 101, What is X, or Everything You Need to Know About X. And they'll usually start with a header that is simply, what is X? The reason why these kinds of content experiences are losing relevance is because users have specific questions surrounding the topic that they're looking for. So you can imagine that if you started with an above the fold experience that was simply, what is X? It's not going to be that interesting or compelling to the user. You'll see here the top results get straight to the point. Spot treat with tea tree oil. That's how you get rid of pimples as quickly as possible. Now, what should you do about this? Let's go back to a traditional keyword research process. Usually what people are doing is that they're doing keyword research, but I recommend that your keyword research get paired with a search intent classification exercise. What does that look like? What you want to do is to Google the target keyword that you're interested in ranking for and count the number of occurrences of each intent that you see. All right, let's go through live for how to get rid of pimples so you have a good idea of what I mean by this particular step. You'll see here the featured snippet. What does it say? It says fast. 6 ways to get rid of pimples fast. You'll see here rank 1 and 2 say how to get rid of pimples fast and naturally. And then we have home remedies that shows up as well. You'll see here that result number 3 says how to get rid of pimples fast. You have Very Well Health that says fast as well. You have an image carousel. So I'll write down that the presence of an image carousel exists. And then this one's just fairly generic, so I'm not going to write anything down. You'll see here there's a YouTube, and it says in 1 day. And then you have this AAD that says 9 things to try when acne won't clear. So won't clear. And then you have this medical news today that says fast home remedies and prevention. So that would be fast home remedies and prevention, like this. Usually during this step, we'll also take a look at the related searches, and we'll also take a look at the results on the 2nd or 3rd page to make sure that we understand the range of perspectives that a user is likely to care about within this particular keyword. I'm going to skip these for this particular example and go back to this process that we are building. What you want to do in step 3 is bucket together the similar themes of intent that you see. So I've already gone ahead and done that while I was doing the search intent classification. And what you can see from here is that there's roughly 6 people who want to get rid of pimples quickly or as soon as possible. About 3 results that talk about how to get rid of pimples naturally or home remedies, like this. And then there's about 1 result here and 1 result there of these content pieces that talk about won't clear or prevention. What this is alluding to is this idea that should you want to break into the top spots for this particular keyword, you have about a 60% chance of breaking into the front page if you were to target this particular intent, getting rid of pimples quickly and as soon as possible. And you have about a 30% chance of breaking into the front page if you were to target the natural or home remedies. You likely have then about a 10% chance of each one of these different ideas showing up, which is won't clear or prevention. And you can imagine that if you had created a generic piece of content on how to get rid of pimples without understanding that the user actually cares most about getting rid of pimples quickly or using natural or home remedies, your piece of content would have a very difficult time ranking. To do this one more time, just to show you the power of using Google autocomplete suggestions and identifying search intent, let's take a look at a high-level topic like bone broth. You'll see here, if I perform the search for bone broth and I did a search intent analysis for bone broth, that the types of results that we'll see showing up are going to be first a recipe carousel. So we'll write down recipe carousel, followed by bone broth recipe here. You'll notice that we get some products. So we'll do a product carousel. And you can imagine we have then this healthline result. So this healthline result says how to make it and reasons why you should, how to make it. And you can imagine reasons why you should is going to be benefits. We then see a video carousel like this, followed then by a piece of content that talks about the benefits, followed by a map pack or where you can buy near you. And then you can imagine that we have a product like this, which is Kettle and Fire. So this is going to be a product homepage. And then you can see here, we have how to make bone broth again. And you'll notice that it's calling out specifically the different kitchenware or Instant Pot, crock pot, stovetop. And you can imagine buy different kitchenware like that. We then have how to make bone broth, the ultimate guide, how to make bone broth. So 2 more for that. Now, this is to say that if we're going to build a piece of content, what we want to do is we want to build a piece of content that hits all of these different ideas that the user is caring about within this particular thing. We can double check that we've gotten the search intent identification correctly by Googling the how to make bone broth like this and seeing that we're seeing a lot of the same results overlap between the 2 sets of search results, right? This one, fork spoon, same one. Then you have the minimalist baker, which is going to be the same one as what you see right over here down there. Now you'll notice that this, how to make bone broth, starts to split in terms of the intents that you see here. Things like slow cooker or easy bone broth is going to start showing up. So if we were to then go into how to make bone broth and do an additional level of search intent classification, you'll notice that the types of things that people are caring about are going to be by different kitchenware, which is the slow cooker, or by difficulty, which is the easy to make thing. So you can imagine if we do then easy ways to make bone broth, then it's very likely that we get a lot of the same results that show up, which is exactly what we see happening over there. We want to keep rinsing and repeating this search intent process so that when we create the piece of content, we're creating the piece of content that hits exactly the right intent that the user is likely to care about. I'm going to briefly show you why ClearScope exists. ClearScope exists because you're designing content. Presumably, you want to create the most comprehensive and high quality piece of content on the right and relevant search intent that you want to rank for. What ClearScope does, should you run a ClearScope report, is that we use advanced natural language processing, most specifically Google Cloud and IBM Watson, to do analysis on the top ranking results. So at a more granular level, what we're doing is we're taking then the top results for how to get rid of pimples fast, running it through industry-leading natural language processing technologies like Google Cloud, IBM Watson, like this, and pulling out the most relevant entities that are associated with this piece of content. The reason then why these entities are very important is because Google itself is looking at whether or not your content is comprehensively addressing the subject matter. You'll see here in a recent blog post, Learn More and Get More from Search, what they're expecting is that should some user perform a search for how to cook fish in the oven, they expect content results to include terms related to the search, concepts like ingredients, recipe, and baked. So Google says if you're talking about cooking fish in the oven and you don't say ingredients, recipe, and baked, it's very likely that your piece of content is unlikely to meet the needs of the searcher and give them what they need. What then makes a lot of sense is to understand the range of entities that surround the topic that you want to rank for and put these within your piece of content. ClearScope's text editor, as you can see here, gives you a whole list of different ideas that you should likely include within your piece of content for how to get rid of pimples, pimple, salicylic acid, benzoyl peroxide. Very important terms. You can see here as I'm drafting the piece of content, ClearScope's going through real-time scoring, how comprehensively the piece of content is addressing the subject matter, and we can very easily take existing content that we've produced, paste it inside ClearScope to get an analysis of how we can improve our content by seeing the different conceptual gaps that we should likely include within the piece of content. That about sums it up. I hope you've enjoyed this course about thinking through keyword research more meticulously and going through and actually classifying the different intents that the user is likely to care about. Again, my name is Bernard. I'm one of the co-founders of ClearScope. And if you would like to learn more about ClearScope, feel free to come to our website and give us a contact request. We're very hopeful and welcome to see you submit, and best of luck creating content.